All right, so you're thinking about moving to Lake Norman, North Carolina. Don't do it unless you can handle these 5 things, because while it is amazing here, it is definitely not for everyone. Hey, my name is Austin and I make weekly videos about what it is like to live in or move to the Lake Norman area of North Carolina. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 things you must know before moving to the Lake Norman area. All right, the first thing you need to know is that the traffic around Lake Norman is pretty harsh. Now, it really just depends on 2 things: where you live along Lake Norman and if you're commuting to Charlotte. Now let's start down south with Huntersville. If you're commuting into Charlotte, you're only going to see about a 10 to 15 minute commute. But with every stop moving north, Cornelius, Davidson, Mooresville, all the way up to Troutman and Statesville, you're looking at up to an hour of time added by the time you get to Statesville. Now, a lot of this is because of the traffic along I-77. Most of I-77 is just 2 lanes on a highway, plus you have the toll lane as well. And that toll lane does get pretty pricey, especially during the week. During the week, you're gonna see it cost you about $15 to $20 in each direction. All right, now that can be a pretty big expense that is added, especially if you are a commuter into Charlotte. And I-77 does have a lot of issues. Now, the main issue is just being that there is just too much traffic on this road and the infrastructure doesn't meet the demand, all right? A lot of the road does also cut through Lake Norman. You'll see it through Davidson and you'll even see it again through Mooresville. And that is really what's causing a lot of the infrastructure problems, is that this road just isn't big enough for the amount of people that have moved here and already live here. Now, if you are living in, say, Mooresville, Troutman, or Statesville, and you're not a commuter, then it's actually not too bad, okay? You have everything you really need down in Mooresville, all right? You have your shopping, you have some entertainment and nightlife, you have access to Lake Norman State Park in Troutman, you have access to Stumpy Creek Park in Mooresville. So really, the further you are away from Charlotte, the less of a problem the traffic is, unless you are going to be a commuter into Charlotte. Now, vice versa, if for say you live on the north end near Troutman or Statesville, if you were commuting to either Hickory or out to Winston-Salem, then it's really not a big issue with the traffic, because I-40 going in either direction is actually pretty good, all right? You're gonna see a lot less traffic. You will see a little rush hour traffic, but it's not nearly as bad as it is down through I-77 going down to Charlotte. And one last thing I'll add, if you are from the Northeast or say from Florida and you're looking to make a move to the Lake Norman area, I-77 isn't really as bad as the traffic I've seen growing up in the Northeast or living down in Florida, right? The traffic down there in Florida and up in the Northeast, it's a lot worse than the traffic here in Lake Norman. And I will say that the big bonus is that you can take that toll road. It is an express lane and it does get pretty pricey during the week. But for me, I'll take that trade-off and just pay the toll so I don't have to sit in traffic. And one more thing, the major airport down here is on the west side of Charlotte. So if you are living, say, in Mooresville, Troutman, Statesville, and you need to make a trip down to the airport, I would expect to at least take an hour of time out of your day to get down there. During rush hour traffic, I'd probably give yourselves an hour and a half or maybe even an hour and 45 minutes just to make sure you're not going to be missing any of those flights that y'all have. All right, let's move into our next point, and that is that Lake Norman in general is not a very walkable area. Now, you're gonna see some walkable spots in Davidson, maybe a little bit in Cornelius, but that's really gonna be the best 2 spots along Lake Norman. Huntersville is very car dependent. You're also gonna see areas like Mooresville, which is extremely car dependent. And then once you get up into Troutman and Statesville, or moving west into Hickory, what you're really gonna need is a car to basically go anywhere, okay? Because you're further outside of the city. All of the amenities are either in that little city center or you're gonna have to commute, okay? Now, there is good shopping, there is great restaurants and good access to nightlife down in Mooresville. It gets a little bit better down as you go further south into Cornelius and Davidson. And then obviously once you get down into Charlotte, you have unlimited options. But depending on where you decide to live on Lake Norman, it's really just gonna depend on what you have access to. If you are in it for the restaurants, you're in it to go shopping, you're in it to go hit the golf courses. With the exception of golf courses, you're gonna wanna be closer to Mooresville or Huntersville, okay? Now for golf courses, I mean, they're everywhere down here, all right? You won't have to worry about finding a golf course no matter what place you decide to land along the Lake Norman area. But if going out to dinners, going to restaurants, going shopping, it's not really your thing, then you do have access to Troutman. You have access to Statesville, or even a little bit further away from the lake, like down near Sherrills Ford. Now, all of these options are gonna be great for you if that's what you're looking for. So just to wrap that point up, if you're looking for walkability, you do have options. You got Davidson, but if that's not really an important thing to you, then you really can go wherever you really want to on the lake, because then it's just really gonna depend on what you are in it for as far as your career goes, or nightlife, shopping, restaurants. It really just depends on what you're looking for, if walkability is not the thing that is really gonna tie you down here. Real quick, if it's your first time checking out the channel, please be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, as we are dropping 2 videos per week about what it is like to live in or move to the Lake Norman area of North Carolina. And as much as I love making these videos, I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of North Carolina. So if you have any real estate needs, we'd love to help you. That number that's popping up below, I am going to be the person that answers those phone calls, text messages, and emails. But with that being said, let's get back into the video. All right, let's jump into point number 3. And it's kind of going to piggyback off of point number 2. And that is that what you're looking for down here is going to split you into 2 camps. If you are looking for that access to shopping, the access to restaurants, you're gonna find yourself in a few different spots. You're gonna see Mooresville and you're gonna see Huntersville. Both of these have fantastic access to shopping, but again, if that's not really your vibe, if you're looking for a little bit further out, maybe a little bit closer to the sticks, if you're looking for something closer to the outdoors, closer to fishing and kayaking, or even just going to the lake, I mean, you're probably gonna be better off finding a spot in Statesville, Troutman, or even parts of Mooresville and Davidson as well. Now, there are parts of Davidson where you are gonna see some farm areas as well, a little bit more of a rural vibe, as Davidson does connect to Lake Norman, but it kind of tails off east away from I-77 in general as well. So you are gonna see a lot of different options as far as which town along the lake you're looking for. And I'm also gonna throw in Denver on the west side of Lake Norman. Is a little bit more of a rural suburban vibe. And then as you get north up to Sherrills Ford, you're gonna see a lot more of a just quiet, quaint town as well. So again, all just gonna depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for the shops and the restaurants, it's gonna put you in one area of the lake. If you're looking to be close by those, however, if you're not looking to be close by them at all, then you had options abound. All right, let's move into number 4, and that is going to be that the neighborhoods around Lake Norman, the vibe in each of them is night and day. Now I'm gonna start with Mooresville. Now Mooresville, what you're gonna see is a suburban feel. You're gonna get a lot of shops and restaurants though, but they are all really located along one main road. It's gonna be River Highway 150. And that road is always under construction. There's always a ton of traffic on it because in the neighboring towns of Davidson to the south, Troutman and Statesville to the north, they don't have the same access to these shops and restaurants that Mooresville offers. Now, what you get in Mooresville, you get the suburban vibe. You can get that same vibe in Troutman. Troutman is a little bit more laid back. It's a lot smaller. You're gonna see a lot less restaurants and shops, Now they do have some that are closer to I-77, but Troutman kind of tails away from I-77, closer to the lake. And you're gonna see a lot of the residents that do live in Troutman, they're actually going to be going down to Mooresville or even closer down towards Charlotte, either to Huntersville or Davidson, depending on what they're looking for. So the vibe that you see in Troutman, you're gonna see it different from Mooresville. Going into Statesville, you're gonna see it change even more. Now, Statesville is bigger than Troutman. It is its own city, but it really doesn't have a lot of fantastic amenities. Now, I will say that Statesville has some great golf courses, great access to pickleball, but you're only gonna really see big box stores in Statesville. So if you're looking for something a little nicer, if you're looking for a mom and pop restaurant like Eddie's on the Lake down in Mooresville, you're not gonna find something like that up in Statesville. Now, to contrast from Statesville, let's move ourselves down into Davidson, and Davidson is just gonna be completely different again, okay? Davidson is another quiet town, but it is a college town, okay? And now, when I say college town, Davidson is not like a big college town, right? It's not like UNC, it's not like NC State or Duke. What you're gonna see at Davidson College is more of a mixture of college students and longtime residents, all right? Davidson is a very quiet, quaint town. It really is just, to me, it feels like it's slower there, all right? Now, I mentioned earlier in the video, it has a good walkability score, and that is because of its downtown area. And whenever you do go down to Davidson's downtown, you are gonna see people out walking around, going to the bookstore, grabbing a coffee, going to the Davidson Saturday Farmers Market, which is phenomenal. If you do ever get a chance to go, it's one of my favorites along Lake Norman. But Davidson in general, it really is not a commercial hub, okay? If you want to live in Davidson, what you're buying is a quiet suburb. You're buying much larger properties. You're gonna see a lot more homes on larger lots. You're gonna see a lot more of a larger style home as well. Talking 3,000, 4,000 square feet on half an acre to an acre or even more. And that's a little bit different from Mooresville, where Mooresville is more of like a suburban vibe. You're gonna see smaller homes, you're gonna see newer construction, with the exception of the homes along the lake, which are more of that like ultra luxury vibe. You're gonna see a lot of very nice homes out in the point in Mooresville. And you're not really gonna find a lot of great lake homes in Davidson, right? Davidson is more of a rural, but not too rural. It's like a fancy rural, I guess, if I could put it that way. And you know, that's just gonna lead me into Huntersville, okay? Now Huntersville again is it's in a field of its own, okay? Huntersville has some nice luxury areas, but really Huntersville is more of an older, you know, homes built in the 50s and 60s and 70s. You're gonna see a lot more smaller ranch style homes on bigger lots. You're gonna see a little bit of a downtown area, but that downtown area is not functioning in the same way that Davidson is, for example. Davidson's downtown area is phenomenal. Going back to Huntersville, it feels more of like a rural, but not in a sense of like a farmland, but more in a sense of like there's a lot of trees here, right? You have the Lotta Preserve in Huntersville, which is a fantastic place to go. An old plantation that has been turned into a preserve where you can go hiking, fishing, kayaking, and just Huntersville in general. I mean, you have good shops in Huntersville, like the Birkdale Village, which, I mean, Birkdale Village is a great time. It gets pretty packed. But the Birkdale Village, in my opinion, I mean, it really carries the weight of the shopping and the commercial for Huntersville, unless you want to go down into Charlotte. And I guess the draw for being in Huntersville, if you do work in Charlotte, is that you're pretty close. So, you know, I covered a few of the towns around Lake Norman. Each one of them is they're all different from the other. And I think you'll be able to find your vibe. You'll find a place that you like, whether it's a town or just a home close by one of those towns that you really do like as well. And I think you'll love it here. But I mean, it really just depends on which town you like the most, what you're looking for, and where you fit in. There's a spot here for everyone. I love it here, but once you get here, you're gonna know that each one of these towns is just very different. All right, last thing you need to know before you decide to move to the Lake Norman area of North Carolina is our weather. All right, now summer has just ended, so I am gonna start with summer. This summer it was pretty hot and pretty sticky, and guess what? That's every summer in North Carolina, unless you live up in the mountains, okay? Now, it doesn't really matter where you live along Lake Norman, it's gonna be hot and sticky. It is summer in the south, okay? It is very humid down here. You're gonna see regular temperatures in the low to mid 90s. Sometimes you get a nice little heat streak where you'll see some temperatures creeping up towards the hundreds. Now, I don't believe we saw a temp in the hundreds this year, but it did get pretty close. And on days like that, you kind of just want to be inside, unless that's your thing. If you like that hot weather, you're going to find it here, okay? Now, Lake Norman has fantastic access to outdoor amenities, okay? If you're big into going to the lake, if you like kayaking and fishing, or even going up to Lake Norman State Park and going and swimming in the lake, those are all great options for you in the summer. Having a pool down here, it's fantastic. The weather's great from early May all the way until the end of September. You're gonna have some nice warm weather. And that's part of the big reason what drew me here. All right, there are 4 seasons along the Lake Norman area of North Carolina. Now, fall is nice. The trees here are very tall. If you're from South Texas or from Florida or out west, and I'm not talking like the Northwest, I'm talking like Southwest. The trees here, they're pretty tall, all right? When I was living in South Texas, I missed the tall trees. Now, that's not really something you notice, especially if you're already a native to North Carolina or the Northeast in general, but you do get the leaves changing here in the fall, and it is a gorgeous sight to see. All right? One of my favorite things to do when the leaves change is go into Lake Norman State Park, and you'll see you're surrounded by trees. And it's gonna be some beautiful fall scenery. You're gonna see those leaves change. The closer you get to the mountains, you'll see it change a little bit sooner as well. But to me, fall is nice. You get some rainy weather. Halloween feels like Halloween. Thanksgiving feels like Thanksgiving. Now, when we talk winters here are pretty mild, okay? We do get some snow here, but it's not a lot, and it's not very often. It was 2 to 3 years ago before we saw snow. Now this past season, we did see some snow. I believe it snowed three times, twice where it actually stuck, okay? And it was like 2 inches of snow. But down here, that's enough. If you have kids, that's enough for them to have a snow day, okay? That does happen down here. It is rare, it doesn't happen very often, but it's a possibility. Now moving into the winter holidays, you're not really gonna get that snowy Christmas or that snowy New Year's Day that you might be seeing if you're coming from the north or from the Midwest. But that might be something you're looking for, right? A lot of people don't want these cold weathers anymore, but they don't want to move so far south that they're just in the humidity of Florida year round, right? Some people still want those 4 seasons, and you're gonna get that here along Lake Norman. Now moving into the spring, it is very pleasant. You're gonna see a lot of rain showers, maybe a couple thunderstorms. It starts warming up here around March. You're gonna see some days in the 60s or 70s. And then from there, just moving into the summer. I mean, to me, it's pleasant, all right? I like the 4 seasons here. That may be something that draws you closer to North Carolina. Maybe it pushes you away, but that's why we're making this video, right? So that you guys can know what it's like to live here before you actually decide to make the move. Now, I wouldn't recommend moving to the Lake Norman area of North Carolina unless you can handle those 5 things. And I do want to point out, as much as I love making these videos, I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of North Carolina. So that number that's popping up below, I am going to be the person that answers those phone calls, text messages, and emails. If y'all have any real estate needs, please feel free to reach out. But with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.